Good afternoon. You're listening to Sharon Coote, the Marketing Admissions Administrator for the Business School. A very warm welcome to you today to the BSc degree webinar. I hope you can all hear me okay. If you can't hear me, do send a message through and we will adjust the microphone. Okay? Right. We're going to be looking at three segments. We're going to be looking at three segments today. At about 4:25, we're going to be talking to final year student Mohammed Nazim. So do prepare and forward any questions that you might have for Nazim. You can type them in the right-hand box and just press to submit them, and we'll get Mohammed to answer those questions for you in the call. Then at about 4:45, we're going to be talking to Brunel money doctors. So they're going to be talking about things to do with student finance, the student budget. All your finance questions, do get them ready. They'll be with us. Two ladies will be with us at 4:45. Okay. Before that, I'm very, very pleased to introduce our first guest, who is Dr. Tony Tollington, who's the course director for the accounting pathway. Now, Tony, can I just start the conversation off by asking you really about the features and benefits of the pathway? Can you sort of tell us, it's not really a program just for people who want to do accounting, is it? It's also got lots of other interesting benefits and features. I mean, it's an interesting thing to study in itself, is it not? So could you talk us through some of the benefits to those who might not know which pathway they're going to choose? Why might they choose this? What might it be good for?
A lot of universities have an accounting and finance degree, and so when students are looking in prospectuses, that meets their eye immediately. Whereas at Brunel, we have an accounting pathway on a business and management degree. And that business and management degree has an accounting pathway, has an international business pathway, has a general pathway, it has a marketing pathway. So that when students come here, the first year is a generic year, it's a generic business and management year, and then in the second and third years they specialise if they're on an accounting pathway in accounting subjects. But they have the option to switch. So for example, the prize-winning student this year was actually on the general pathway, and she had a year of placement, and on that placement she was spotted by one of the big four chartered accounting firms, and she's now employed by them. But she started off on the business and management general pathway, not the accountancy pathway, and has ended up going into a chartered accountancy firm. So the business and management program gives you a far wider perspective on business than would be afforded by just doing an accounting and finance degree.
What's the difference then? I mean, we've got finance and accounting over in social sciences. Can you just describe what the difference is, what the benefits and differences might be?
It is a very bizarre situation here at Brunel. If you're looking for accounting and finance, then you may well find a program under the heading of finance first with accounting added to it, open school social science, whereas if you're looking for an accounting and finance degree here in the business school, you won't find it. What you'll find is an accounting pathway on a business and management degree, and it's quite anomalous in some ways that we actually have two sources of accountancy in the university. One over in the School of Social Science, which you quite correctly identified as finance and accounting, and another one here where it's done as an accounting pathway to a business and management degree.
Okay. So
the principal differences, to answer your question specifically, is that if you do the finance and accounting degree over in the School of Social Science, you will have to have an A-level in mathematics.
Yes, exactly.
And it'll be heavily economically orientated, and you'll be using a lot of mathematics. Accountancy is then added on to that, and it's only about 3 or 4 accountancy subjects which you'll be doing throughout the term program. So if you do that, you'd probably be looking at a career in the city. You could choose a career in accountancy, but you're probably looking at a career in the city dealing with finance first,
right,
and accountancy second. Whereas if you come to the business school and you do the accounting pathway, then you'll be going up towards the profession.
Yeah. So the main thing is the difference in getting onto the course entry criteria-wise is that we only ask for a GCSE B. If you are thinking about doing the accounting pathway, or when you've actually studied the first year and you decide you want to progress and you don't have a C in maths, there may be an opportunity for you to us assess how well you did in the accounting module in the first year. So if you do very well in that, then you can progress without that C. So that's without that B in maths. So that's something to mention, isn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next question. I mean, can you just tell me some of the things that people can look forward to studying on the program once they've gone through the foundation year in business? What sort of things are you going to start? Can you just describe some of those modules? I mean, we can see the titles. What sort of things are they going to be studying?
Well, it really doesn't matter what type of accountant you are. As a mandatory requirement for all accountancy, you'll need a really high level of expertise in financial accounting. So financial accounting is a key feature. But there are 4 professional institutes in this country, each with their various specialisms. And apart from public sector accounting, we cater for all of them. So you'll be doing financial accounting as a mandatory subject, covering all the disciplines, but then you'll also be exposed to management accounting, auditing, taxation, and financial management. And they're probably the main building planks for the discipline of accountancy.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so going a bit further, can you show us just something about one of the modules that you're going to be doing in that second year? Because that's the year that they're going to have all the concentration of accounting modules.
What do you mean, sorry?
Talk, for somebody who hasn't studied accounting before, has no idea, can you describe the sort of things that you're going to be looking at? Are you only going to be...
Well, there's a couple of management accounting modules in the second year. So that's semester 1 and semester 2, and subject content which should be familiar to a person who has never done accountancy before will be subject areas like budgets, for example,
Yeah.
and performance appraisal.
Mm-hmm.
So these are areas which have a generic title, so people have an idea of what they're all about, but we obviously go into a lot more depth.
Okay. Can we move on a little bit to talk about the career of accounting? Now, you were an accountant for many years. Can you describe, I mean, when sort of novices like me that don't know anything about accounting, I just see somebody poring over figures all day, adding things up to see if anybody's gone over their budget or if they've gone over their expenses or something like that. Is there more to it than that? What are the different, how do you break down the role?
What you
Or
spoke
different
about
types of roles?
Oh, it's far too broad now to be able to talk about in those terms. I can express it generally. Yes, there will be a lot of trainee accountants who will be into the nitty-gritty of looking at budget variances and the like and spending controls in various areas. And that's all a very fundamental record-keeping part of accountancy. But if you're a professionally qualified accountant, that will diminish as you move on to more and more exotic issues.
Okay.
And it does depend on the training program that you enter in on. So, for example, in my case, I was actually doing pretty high level of capital investment appraisals in the first year that I was a trainee accountant. So I wasn't even doing basic bookkeeping at all in any form. What I was looking at was some rather exotic and rather expensive capital investment appraisals, which is finance. So
Yeah.
So it depends on exactly what your job is.
Can we just do a little sound check just now, because I think some listeners are having some difficulty hearing us. Could you kind of give us a quick typed message through if you can receive us okay? So we want to make sure that the volume is enough for everyone. Okay, thanks. Okay, continue, Tony.
No, I was just saying that I was doing capital investment appraisals in the first year that I was an accountant. It's the sort of thing that you'd actually be doing much later on. So there's no norms here. Very much depends on the training scheme that you entered into. Okay.
Right. There's some practical elements to the program as well, isn't there? I know that you've introduced recently. Students can also learn the 2 major packages, which is Sage Accounting and Excel. Can you talk a little bit about Sage, or tell us what it is for people who've never heard of it? Because there are a lot of people who have never come across anything to do with accounting packages. So if you could just kind of talk a little bit about the practical skills they're going to be taught as well.
Accountancy is essentially a skills-based subject, and it's very important that people go out here with the requisite skills to be able to perform that work outside. And I cannot emphasise enough, because students seem to disconnect from this for some peculiar reason. I cannot emphasise enough that actually from day one, in terms of the numerical content of what's being taught, it is directly transferable out into the workplace.
Right.
So if you intend to be an accountant, you better start learning to learn from day one, because everything that you learn is literally transportable. So, for example, in my case, I was a trainee accountant for 2 years, and after 2 years, I was a manufacturing accountant. And guess what? I was running a full standard costing system, full accounting department, after 2 years. Now, that's not at all unusual. There's nothing special about me. Yeah, but the skills that I should have acquired at university and didn't, I certainly had to learn on the job. Right. That's rather embarrassing when you're in that situation. So actually, students need to understand that we will give them the requisite skills from day one, yeah, for them to actually apply that out in the big wide world. But in addition to those basic skills out in the world nowadays, there's certainly one very fundamental requirement, is that employers expect you to be more than proficient in Excel. They expect you to have a reasonably advanced level of skills in that area. And in terms of SMEs, that's small and medium-sized enterprises, there's a very wide usage of Sage accounting software. So what we're talking about here is taking the basic double entry bookkeeping system and everything which is added onto that, things like taxation, payroll, and they are put into computer systems which are then used by these businesses. Well, students here, we have, starting this year, a module which caters to that specifically, nothing else. So when they go out from this university having completed that module, they should be able to, with relative ease, get jobs in small and medium-sized enterprises, offering the Sage kind of skills which are very widely used out there.
Okay, and what is that module? Is that the Sage? What's the module?
It's called MG2603 Accounting Information Systems.
Oh, okay. Accounting and Information Systems. Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you earlier about an accounting department. Can you just kind of describe just some of the roles that might be in there from your experience? Okay.
What, you mean out in the big wide world?
Out in the big wide world. Say it's a medium-sized to large company. What sort of job titles have you got in that department? Have you got, like, how many accountants might they employ? Say at, I don't know, Coca-Cola.
Depends obviously on the size of the business.
Yeah.
But the basic areas which you will have to address will be obviously invoices in and invoices out, debtors and creditors basically. You'll have to deal with payroll, you'll have to deal with cash and bank management, you'll have to deal with general ledger entries where these various accounts are effectively consolidated, and depending on your business you may well have a whole range of costing relating activities too. So it very much depends on the business. It also very much depends on your role. Yeah,
okay. I was going to move on now. It seems quite natural to move on to accreditation, because accounting is one of those few professions where you actually need to have certification, don't you? So, in other words, if you want to be an accountant, when you graduate from your degree here, you will be required to do additional professional study, isn't that right?
That's
and that's what we have as a key benefit on the programme. We've got the accreditations from CIMA and all the rest. Can you just talk a little bit about what you would need to be a fully qualified accountant?
Well, I spoke at the beginning of this exercise about a girl who was on the general pathway. She wasn't even on the accounting pathway.
Yeah.
Who was recruited by, I think it was Deloitte, one of the big 4 chartered accounting firms. So clearly she didn't come on this course with the intention of maximising on professional exemptions. But she was spotted for a rather bizarre skill which she had, a very useful one, which was she had some expertise in the Basel III regulations which deal with banks.
Okay.
So she was spotted on that basis and has been employed on that basis. And
did she do work placements?
She did a work placement.
Exactly.
Can't recommend it more highly. Very, very useful exercise. But she was recruited for that expertise, and now she's training to be a chartered accountant. So it doesn't necessarily follow that somebody who comes here specifically with accountancy exemptions in mind will necessarily do it. Right?
True.
So,
but there's a great incentive to do it.
Well, no, it's really from the university point of view. It's really a marketing exercise. It says that if you come to Brunel, you'll get X number of exemptions, and by the way, that means you've got less work to do when you decide.
Is that not the case?
Well, that is the case, and we do very well in that regard. The issue is this, but the students themselves, generally speaking, don't know they want to do with their own life.
Right.
I certainly didn't know what I wanted to do until I was 30.
Yeah.
So, okay, it's a great marketing ploy, but actually there'll be a lot of students who say, do you know, business and management is attractive to me because I actually really don't know what I want to do. And they may well fall into accountancy in years 2 and 3, whereas sort of that example I gave, that the student actually wasn't even doing accountancy.
Yeah.
And in fact, the Big 4 chartered accounting firms will look at your A-levels first.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is that, no, you don't have to have done a degree with accreditations already inbuilt. You can do any degree, am I right? You can do any degree, provided maybe you've got the right maths.
If you're going to if you're a bright student and you're going to one of the Big 4 chartered accounting firms, they, believe it or not, actually quite like, what matters is, first of all, the quality of your A-levels.
Right.
Second, the quality of the institution. Okay, so Brunel's okay in that respect. It certainly wouldn't look at the lower ranked universities.
Right.
So the quality of your A-levels, the quality of the degree you went to, and believe it or not, they like music and they like engineering.
Well, because
both of them mathematically
okay, because your mind's, I get you. Yeah, I once had a teacher that told me that people who tend to be good at, very intellectual, good at maths and so on, tend to be very good at reading music. So that's interesting.
Well, it also makes you far more interesting character.
And perhaps your faculties will last longer, because there's another statistic that says that the best thing for extending your intellect into old age is playing an instrument. But back to the exemption.
Karaoke yourself.
Do you? Oh, well. I wouldn't say it. Back to the exemptions. Nevertheless, there is a key benefit to having, 18 exemptions of papers.
No,
isn't it
27 now.
27, there you go, we've gone up already. So it's very competitive, isn't it, compared to the other universities in our category. And if you wanted to be a candidate, that must be a good plus. If you go along to SEMA, if you go along to ACSA, and they say, okay, we can exempt you for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're further along, yeah? Sure.
Yeah, we've got a very, very good level of exemption. So we would like to get to a position where we can maximise on all exemptions across all the professional institutes.
Yeah.
And we're close. We are pretty close, I have to admit.
Yeah.
And some universities, mainly the top-ranked universities, are playing catch-up.
Yeah.
All the other universities, they know the name of the game, and they sort of maximise exemptions too.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to remind everyone who's listening, thank you so much for staying with us. If you have a question for Tony, now would be a very, very good time to type that question into him. You can also ask any question you like. He is a lecturer on other subjects. Is that right, Tony? Do you touch on any other subjects at all? Would you be able to answer any questions? I
don't know, but I'll give it a go.
Okay, I think we've got a question here. I think. Do bear with me 1 second.
What's your star sign?
No, we're not allowed to talk about. That's the school rule. We're not allowed to talk about astrology on the webinars. Okay, just getting down to some of these questions. Okay, I've got someone here. I think his name is Kasim. Which accounting professional qualification is more valuable? So worldwide. So we've got SEMA, we've got ACCA, we've got the IGAW. Which one would you think would have more international?
I'm sure they would all argue that they're all the best in the field. So you're asking me for my prejudice, my bias.
Yeah, you're getting an exclusive.
I think it's no accident that the ICAW, the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, has the numbers have diminished somewhat recently. A lot of people are retiring, but they haven't made their presence felt as widely as they should have done on the international scene. And the Institute just stolen the march on is most definitely the ACCA organisation, the Chartered Certified Accountants.
Okay.
So they have a huge international following. They have international streams in their syllabus, and if you intended to become a financial accountant rather than management accountant internationally, then I suspect that would be the qualification I would go for if I was going to be working overseas.
Yeah.
And if you're going to become a management accountant, that seems very good indeed.
Could we talk a bit about sectors? Is it a job that it doesn't matter what sector you work in, or is it worth a student or a graduate thinking about what sector they want to go in? I mean, for example, I used to work in the city, and I'm not financial minded at all. And so I didn't feel connected very much to my, if you see my audience who I was serving. Does it matter if you're an accountant and you're working with numbers, what sector you work in? Or would you say consider the sector that you're applying for?
It depends what you want to do, and frankly, I can't see that a student would be that discerning so early in their career development.
Yeah.
But if they were that discerning, and they knew, for example, that they would need access to tax and audit, then you certainly wouldn't be doing chartered institute or management accountants. But I can't see students being that discerning, to be blunt about it. You will find, for example, that there are management accountants sitting on main boards, being exposed to audit and account and tax matters, and they're having to cope with it. So I don't think it necessarily means that because you choose a particular focus in your professional development that you necessarily will end up in that. So, for example,
I'm not even talking within the sector of accounting. I'm talking about outside of the accounting department.
Just like to say, 25% of all senior accountants, that's the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, don't actually work in accountancy at all.
Ah. Can you elaborate?
Well, there's no finer business qualification than accountancy, because ultimately every single business decision boils down to money.
Yeah.
And management accounting will give you a very broad perspective on that.
Okay.
And a lot of the membership, 25% of the membership, are able to use that underpinning, but do something completely different. And frankly, I think it's a really good thing to do with your life.
Okay. Okay, we've got maybe time for one more question. We're about to draw it to a close. Have you got any tips that you would give a student just now on
what career?
Well, just if they're going to choose the accounting pathway, any tips or anything they can do. Anything
Don't do it.
Oh dear, he's only joking, folks.
I remember reading an article back in 1979 in the Daily Telegraph newspaper, and it said the following. It said, "Do in life that which you enjoy."
Yes.
Because life in general rewards those who succeed,
yes,
rather than those who try hard. And what that means is this: it really doesn't matter whether you're going to be a plumber or whether you're going to become an accountant. If you're happy in what you'll do, you will be successful.
Exactly.
The world will recognise that success and reward it.
Yes.
And it's the most important thing in life is trying to find something which you're happy doing. Now, I haven't met many happy accountants, but I have met an awful lot of rich accountants, and I met an awful lot of accountants who wanted their third wife and fourth Jaguar.
Oh dear.
So it depends what you want in life. And if you know what you want to do in life at your tender age, well, you're a very lucky man or woman.
Well, that's a lovely way to end it. And actually, you ended it very similar to how the head of the department would give the advice. He says, do the pathway or the degree that is the most interest to you, because you'll probably do well in it. And that's the main thing at this stage, isn't it?
There we go.
Yep. Thank you very much, Tony.
Is that me done? Good.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, people.
Okay. Right, we're going to move on very quickly now to my second guest, who his name is Mohammed Sahim, and he's a final year student of the Business and Management Accountant pathway. So literally he finished in May of this year after his exams. He already knows he's on for first class. Well done.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to hand over the microphone right now to him. And do get ready with those questions. He's happy to answer any questions you might have about student life, about business studies life here in the business school. So do keep those questions coming through. Okay, the first thing I want to say is congratulations. Brilliant result. I know you mentioned earlier on, I think it was Facebook or something like that, that you were looking for a first, and there you are, you've got it. So that's my first question. What's your secret? Are you just brilliantly, got a brilliant mind, or did you have a strategy?
Honestly, I don't think it's got much to do with how intelligent you are or how naturally gifted you are. I think a lot of it boils down to simply working hard and putting in the effort when it's needed. So final year is a bit different from second year in the sense that obviously the university years go in stages. So first year is relatively easy, then second year it turns harder, and then final year there's a huge jump in what you're expected to do in that.
Okay.
So you have to be prepared to put in the extra hours studying on your own. You need to be willing and you need to motivate yourself to get in touch with your tutors and go talk to them and discuss out any issues in advance rather than putting it out for later, because maybe you could get away with that in the first year or even in the second year, but it's not something that's going to happen in the final year. So I think it all came down to the fact that I tried to keep ahead of my deadlines, if it was the dissertation or if it was the exams. Like, for instance, the exams, they started at the end of April, and I started revising 2 months in advance so that I could finish the course a few times. So I think it all came down to the effort rather than just saying that, oh, I'm just naturally gifted. And
okay, brilliant. So you said that you put in a lot of effort, yeah? Mm-hmm. So can you describe what would happen to you when after you went to a class? How would you approach your studies? How did you do that? Because I think for some it's natural, but it's something that can be learned.
True. Thing is, the accounting pathway is a bit different from the other pathways because it's very intensely focused on the accounting theory and on some of the modules. For instance, the tax module, which can be taken by the accounting students in the final year, is very heavy on the government's regulations and the rules and formulas for calculating tax, and that's something you have to practice quite a bit. So for a module like tax, you have to attend the module class, and which is usually a 2-hour lecture in which the theory is explained and the tutor goes through a few example questions, but that in itself is not enough. Then you have to follow it up with a seminar class, which usually takes place in the same week, and the tutor goes through more in-depth examples, and this time you get to solve them with it. But again, like I mentioned, something like accountancy is very complex, so you cannot learn something like tax just by doing the examples and just by doing that. Then you have to refer to your course book, and in that you'll find loads of examples. And that's where your personal effort comes in, because simply attending the lecture and doing the questions in the seminar won't get you a first class. It may get you a 2-1, but if you want to learn on your own, because the exams will be relatively tough, you will need to practice on your own, and that's how you approach it. You attend the lecture, you practice in the seminar, then you practice on your own, and that's where the tutor ask comes in.
Okay, so with the practice specifically with the accounting models that are more numeric and so on, and formulas and whatever. So you went home and you practiced those formulas.
Repeatedly.
How about the first? If you go back to the first year, how about the first year? How did you approach that? Was there a lot of reading on the degree?
So the first year was quite different, because first year, as Tony mentioned, is usually generic and general. So you've got people from all different pathways are together in the same year, and it's bringing you up to the basics. So it's relatively simple, and it's more intensely focused on theory. Even the
business theory, we're talking about general business theory,
and even the accountancy module will be focused more on the accountancy theory and principles. It will obviously have elements of traditional accounting where you have to solve balance sheets and that, but it will be fairly simple, and it wouldn't require a lot of intense understanding. There are simple concepts that you can apply using mostly common sense.
What did you do in terms of your first year? What did you do when you had a class and you were given the readings? Can you just go through that? What did you do? Literally, what did you do?
Literally speaking, I was in the first year. Even though it's easy, it's still generally good practice to go back to do some reading on your own in your own spare time. So after lectures, even though in some cases we didn't have a lot of reading to do or didn't have a lot of exercises to practice, I still made sure I kept up to date with what was going on and what the path the course will take, and maybe try to do a little advanced reading, or just simply stay up to date with where the tutor is.
Did you keep your reading within what was required, or did you read beyond what was required?
Within the first 2 years, the first year and second year, I usually kept it to within what was required. I didn't go out of my way to find extra stuff. But in the final year, that won't be enough. You will have to.
And how did you go about remembering things? How did you make notes on the readings? What did the readings look like? Are the readings things you download from the internet here, or did you go in the library and read from the books? What sort of thing?
It depends on the module. Some of the modules are very intensely focused on the recommended course book. So you'll have a course book recommended to you, and most of the stuff with the other modules, you might have to research journal articles or look up articles online. So in the first year and second year, most of the time, the library and the course book should be enough. But in the final year, you might have to refer to other sources. they are within the library, it's just that you have to spend a bit more
time looking them up
looking
and
them
getting
up.
used to all the software, researching software.
Yeah, I mean, the library software is really simple, and you do have a lot of help available by the library staff, and there are even self-help guides available. So that should help. But in regards to how you prepare, it's different from other people. When I was giving my final exams, I saw people, students like me, who were literally writing down everything and then understanding and writing it. But I learned it differently. For me, I memorized most of the stuff, so I didn't write down. I simply read it, and then I memorized it. And then I kept on memorizing it again and again.
How did you do that?
It's just the way I've
reading it
always done.
all over and over
I
again.
don't like, so for instance, if a chapter is 20 pages long, as an example, students who learn by writing down, they could spend a couple of hours making notes on every single page and every single heading. I would probably spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes reading the chapter, then I would move on to the next one. But the difference is I do it regularly, so I would read one chapter, then I would read it again, 2-3 days later, then I would read it again. So.
Now this is the secret, because I recently went on a reading course in the library, and they said that if you need to look at the stuff more than once. The more times you look at it, the more times you talk about it, is the more it will go into your memory. So what you're saying, did you find that tip?
I think that's the way I naturally do it, but I think it's very useful, and it saved me a lot of time, because the students who I did observe who were writing down, it takes a lot of time to make even one chapter's worth of notes, and you've got a lot of material to cover. So I found it easier to simply read through it, remember the key bits, and keep on revising it regularly, rather than just spend one massive afternoon trying to write down everything and then not looking at it for 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks later you tend to forget things. So.
Okay, so that's a tip there, everyone, from someone who achieved a first class. Can I just go back, because you're not from the UK, can I just go back to your, Tony was talking about your skills and your purpose and so on. What made you choose accounting?
Honestly, frankly speaking, it was the money. Like Tony said, accountants do tend to earn quite a bit, and they do, especially in the middle, when they reach the middle, or about middle age or old age, or if you're lucky, you can even get it young. But even the young accountants, they're on relatively higher pay scales than for instance, a fully qualified chartered accountant, based on recent data that I looked up. If you're a management accountant or a chartered accountant, at age 25, 26, you could be earning upwards of £60,000 annual, which very few people in the UK manage in that age, unless they've got a really specialist qualification. So for me, it was the money. I wanted
But there must be some skill there. I mean, did you have outstanding maths? What things did you like to kind of do?
A lot of people tend to confuse accounting with exemplary math skills. It's not math skills, it's logical skills that you need. And you need to have an analytical mind, you need to be able to look at things, and you need to be able to notice things and see if something fits there, something not, or that it makes sense. I think that's more important than accounting. And I always had an interest for facts and figures, if you will. I was good at looking at data and analyzing it, and that's what it comes down to. Accounting, in the end, you're investigators, and you analyze a lot of stuff.
Okay. Can I move on a little bit to talk about, you did a work placement, didn't you? Now, did you think that added much to your knowledge and confidence and skills? Can you just talk about what benefits you got?
Honestly, it changed my life pretty much.
Really?
It was the best experience of my life. It probably.
Where did you go, first of all?
I was working in the city in the firm called Communications Limited, and funnily enough, I wasn't in an accounting role. I was in a financial analyst role over there.
Okay.
But that's where I really developed my affinity for accounting in general, because I do like the financial world in general, but based on my experience working there, I did enjoy it, but I also realized that I would enjoy the accountancy profession more. But it wasn't just the career selection that it helped me. It changed it completely, and here in the industry completely changed their perspective on a lot of things. I remember, and probably I was one of those students who, when they were in the first year, simply assumed that you get a degree and then you wave it in the employer's face and you suddenly get a very good job. But the practical world, it's not that. You simply having a degree or having a first class on its own is not enough. You need to have soft skills. You need to be a good organized person. You need to have excellent communication skills, both at a professional and a personal level. You need to be a good speaker. You need to be confident. You need to have teamwork.
That's true, but very few people have absolutely whole round 100% in
they
every
don't.
area.
A lot of people don't, but that's what the placement year helped me realize the importance of, and that's when I focus on really developing them, because you tend to get group tasks at university, and a lot of students, and I'm probably guilty of that myself, you tend to stick with your friends and you say, yeah, I'll work better with this person and I'll stick with it. But you have to realize that in life you don't get choices. You will be put in a team where sometimes you don't like someone who you work with, or sometimes there's personality clashes and it doesn't work out. But that's where you have to show your professionalism and your maturity, basically, and that's what employers want. They want someone who can get the job done in an efficient way for the benefit of the organization, rather than simply struggling with it. So that's when I realized that it had to be a combination of both soft skills and theoretical learning.
So talking about these soft skills, did you take part in quite a lot of the business life events as well? Did you get much from those in terms of the soft skills?
Some of it, I think some of it comes down to your natural personality. Obviously, there are extroverts and introverts, and like it or not, extroverts do have a bit of an advantage in the business world, especially because a lot of time in life it depends on who you know and what they can do. But it also it's not something like that you can't learn it. I used to be quite shy when I was young. I used to, as a common example, I used to struggle giving presentations. I used to literally physically shake, or I used to speak very fast. But it's something that can be learned. And as an example, this year in the Best Life event that was organized by the business school, there were events on how to control your voice when you're talking to someone, how to hide your nervousness, if you will, because when you get nervous and when it becomes obvious, it doesn't look very professional, and it's a turn off for employers. Basically, there was another workshop on how to protect your confidence, and then there was even a networking event, which is just practice, and a lot of students tend to underestimate how important talking to people and making contact is. And I think the different events at Business Life helped me develop that. But it also depends on your personality as well. So.
Okay. Can we just go back again to your choice 4 years or so ago? Where were you, and what brought you to Brunel? What made you choose Brunel?
Well, it comes down to the reputation and the facilities and the teaching offered. Because where I was studying for Brunel, it was the standards of the teaching standard there wasn't quite up to a standard that I would like.
Where you were studying before?
I wasn't studying in the UK. I was studying in a university called the Lahore School of Economics.
So you started your degree somewhere else?
So I did, but I realized that on the international stage, you need all the advantage you can get. And for that reason, I chose Brunel, because the business school, especially, I don't know about the other sectors.
How did you hear about the business school?
I just did my own research, really. I just went on, and it's not like it is basically my own research, and I read articles on Brunel, and like I said, I wanted to become an accountant for whatever reason, money for me, but I read about the exemptions as well, and I read the pathway, and also because, like Tony mentioned, like most young people, I wasn't sure, not in the fact that I wanted to be an accountant for my career, I wasn't sure in my ability to handle accountancy modules, because it is tough, especially later on, and even the professional exams were tougher than university. I was afraid I would fail, or I wouldn't be able to cope with it. That's why Brunel was one of those places which was offering a sort of hybrid degree between business management and accountancy. So it was my fail-safe mechanism, if you will, that if I couldn't cope with accounting, I could just follow another pathway. So that was one of the reasons why I chose Brunel.
Did you come straight to Brunel, or were you able to do like a fact-finding visit before you came here?
I came straight to Brunel, but to be honest, I was quite satisfied with the fact-finding I'd done on the internet. I didn't think I would need a physical visit, although that being said, my jaw did drop when I saw the campus. It was a beautiful campus back then, and it has improved considerably. So
that's good.
It does have an effect. So.
Brilliant. Okay, we're coming to the end of our segment with Mohammed. If you've got any questions at all about any aspect of business school life, learning life, campus life, now's your chance. But just going to a couple final questions. We've mentioned first class, and I felt that we should actually kind of break down the degree classifications that one can get now. So I wonder if you could just go through the various. So first class is the top. That's the cream on the cake.
So basically, the first class starts from 70% And that's it doesn't matter if you get a 70% or if you get a 90%. You're in the first class category.
Yeah.
So and then you have the second class, which is the upper second class or the lower second class, the upper 2-1 and the lower 2-1, and that's from 60% till 69%. I think the lower 2-1 is between 60 to 63, and the upper is 64 to 69.
Yeah.
And then there's the 2-2, which is between 50 to 59%, and then there's the really unlucky third class. But generally speaking, even in an accounting pathway, you have to make a special effort to get a 2-2, I think, because it's fairly, even with minimal effort, you can get a 2-1. So I don't think it's first class, you have to put in a lot of effort, but with normal effort, you can get a 2-1, and I think that's what most students should aim for.
Do you think it's easier to get a 2-1 in accounting? If you've got the aptitude, then it would be in the other three?
I think generally, whatever you get in accounting, you should be proud of, because it's going to be a bit harder than the other pathways.
Oh, it's harder. Yeah.
But generally, I think with normal hard work, a 2-1 shouldn't be that hard to get, and I would advise most students, at the very least, they should be aiming for a 2-1, because like I said, you have to be you have to do something special to mess up your grades so bad that you end up with a 2-2 or a third class. So if you're a normal student and you put in normal effort, a 2-1 shouldn't be too hard. Yeah. But in the current economy, with the recession and the job market being so crowded, a first class, any advantage you have is good, and first class will stand out. I've talked with employers before, and they say the first class isn't a guaranteed job, but a first class does guarantee that we will at least give a proper look to your application, even if you dump it later on. But it does get you some attention, so there's that.
Good. And have you got anything lined up? I know you're working with us at the school just now as a research assistant.
I'm continuing my education with the University of Bristol. I'm going to do a Masters in Management, Finance and Accounting.
Excellent.
And after that, I'll see what opportunities there are available in the job market.
Brilliant. Well, it's a delight to talk to you, Mohammed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Okay. Finally, we're moving on to our last segment, and I'm very, very pleased to welcome the money doctors. Now, the money doctors are going to tell us all about what they are in a few minutes, but I've got Ingrid and I've got Ravin. Ingrid?
Yes.
Yes, I'll introduce Ingrid and Ravin. Now, Ingrid, do you do different roles in the team? Do you want to come?
Sure.
We're just going to position ourselves around the microphone so everyone can hear you. Yeah, and just quickly, I mean, are you two doing a similar role, or is there a difference in your roles here?
There is a difference between my role and Raven's role.
Okay.
So I am part of the Money Doctors team with my colleague Tracy, who is based in the Fees and Funding team in the Student Centre.
Okay.
And I am an advisor within the Advice and Representation Centre in the Brunel Students' Union.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Just to elaborate, the Money Doctors is a collaborative joint effort between the Student Union and the Student Centre.
Right.
So each of our Money Doctors have different roles that they do as their day job, and Money Doctors is an initiative on top of that as well.
Okay, so we go right from scratch for our listeners, because at the moment we've got people who probably have never worked before, haven't managed any money before, mum and dad or head of the household have managed all the budget. So aside from meeting the entry criteria, organising a loan or being funded for your degree is probably the first major hurdle for many students, yeah?
Yes.
And also the living costs. So do you want to just quickly talk about the advice that you would give students about managing their living budget? So
I think the first thing to really think about is when you're starting off on your journey to begin your university course, and you're looking at sort of what entitlements that you can get from the statutory student support. That's a UK home student. You want to be looking at the information on the Student Finance England website, and it's DirectGov now, directgov.uk. And on there, you'll be able to find out what statutory funding you should be eligible to apply for. And you should make your application as soon as really you're submitting your UCAS applications. And start that sort of planning stage around sort of January, February, prior to starting your university course in September of that year.
Okay.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the key thing.
Right.
I mean, there are elements to the student funding package. Obviously, there's the tuition fee loan,
Mm-hmm.
the maintenance loan,
Okay.
and the maintenance grant. So what says loan has to be repaid.
Right.
Tuition fee loan gets paid directly to the university, so a prospective student or student about to sort of start their journey wouldn't see any of that money paid directly into their bank account.
Right.
The maintenance loan and or the maintenance grant, if you're at family income that you're eligible for the maintenance grant, will be paid directly into your bank account in 3 monthly instalments.
Right.
So you've got to really be sort of quite clued up about sort of
it's
like
harder to
planning
budget.
your budget.
Yeah, it's harder,
over
isn't
a
it?
3 month sort of term payment, really.
Yeah. So that's longer than having a job. I mean, you're paid weekly or you're paid monthly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
managing your money for 3 months
It is. It's a huge
is quite a
deal.
thing. Have you got any tips for doing that?
Well, I think the first thing is make sure that you're applying for all the statutory funding that you are eligible to apply for.
Right.
And you apply for it in a timely manner so that it actually gets paid into your bank account once you start and enrol on your studies.
Mm-hmm.
When you've sort of got your money, I think you need to be thinking about sort of like setting up maybe 2 bank accounts.
Exactly.
One bank account
Yes.
for where you get all your loans, scholarships, bursaries,
Yes.
part-time work,
Yes.
family contributions paid into.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you've calculated what that is, and then sort of also thought about sort of like what are your non-negotiable spending, which is going to be your rent, because obviously your rent has to be paid, so you won't have any worries about having a roof over your head. Also think about sort of your contracts for your phone, because obviously you want to still keep in touch, you know, with your family, friends, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And also sort of like the insurance to cover any of those gadgets or sort of phones going damaged or lost or stolen. So once you've done sort of that calculation, then you should have sort of whatever income is left for you to play around with. And what we would then suggest is that you transfer that money on a weekly basis into your current account, which is your day-to-day kind of living, and preferably doing that on a Monday rather than Friday, because there is a temptation if you did it on a Friday
To just
think
go
about
wild.
weekend spending, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
And to stress what Ian said, I think the most important thing is once you know how much money you'll have for the academic year, and when I say academic year, I mean from the September to the following September, so we can't forget about summer breaks, we still need money during those times, to take the money, the incoming money, calculate your expenditures, and then what's left over is what you have to spend for the whole year, excuse me, and to know what that is before you start your course. Don't figure it out afterwards.
Yeah.
If you don't know what your income is going to be until afterwards, obviously you're forced to. But it's good to know and plan ahead of time.
Are there any, is there any materials that you've got on your website that can help people to work out this budget?
We've got lots of materials on our Brunel Money Doctors website.
Yeah.
It's currently, though, on the intranet, isn't it? So it's not accessible.
It's not accessible to new students,
prospective students
Yeah.
to access that. But we've got heaps of information on there in all particular sort of different categories on how to manage and budget your money effectively.
We also when we talk to students during open days a lot of time on how they do this. During the beginning of the year, we offer drop-in sessions for students and one-to-one appointments for students as well. So we can sit down and show them. We have a spreadsheet basically I'm sure business students will love spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So it'll basically do all of their calculation for them and they know exactly what they have. And for us, it's more important, well, getting to all students is important, but we definitely would love to help them before they find themselves
into trouble.
We're not just about students who are in trouble.
No. So what are some of the things or the pitfalls that students fall into? Is it just running out of money, not knowing how to budget? Is that what happens?
Yes, I think maybe for the first time, for some students, it's a lot of money being placed in their bank accounts, and it's this whole managing over a termly instalment payment of 3 months. So I think there is that temptation, first of all, to sort of splurge your money on the latest gadget, for example.
It's a lot of money coming in.
It's a lot of money coming in at once. So, and unfortunately, the curriculum as it is at the moment is set up that some people don't even get those sort of budgeting skills, sort of, initially, or haven't seen it sort of like in the home place, maybe. So, but it doesn't mean to say that you can't manage your student money effectively once you get here, or just before, as long as you prepare as much as you can do in advance.
I think another pitfall that we've seen more recently over the past couple of years is students falling for the quick loans.
I was going to say, are they a target? Because
yes, absolutely.
Students,
and the way it's sold to students, they don't understand how much it is they're going to have to pay back. So if they get a quick loan to hold them over the last month before their next loan installment from the student loan company, they don't realize that they end up having to pay back sometimes double, triple what they took out, and they never get themselves out of the hole once that happens.
That's right.
Also, overdrafts on student accounts. We find a lot of times once students start using their overdrafts, because it's there, it's allowed, they can never get themselves out of it as well, even once they've graduated.
Are they vulnerable also just by having that much money going into their account? Are there people around that will take advantage of students having that much money? I don't know. I mean, you can't really
from
break
a kind of money mule kind of sort of element, or sort of.
I'm just thinking of somebody that would try and weasel the money out of them to get them to part with large amounts of money.
I think you see a lot of advertising specifically for students, sales, for example.
Yeah.
And you see the students specifically being targeted at specific times of the year. We haven't sat down and correlated it, but I'm sure you can probably correlate to their loan payments, because all students across the UK receive their payments around the same time.
And how just to go to practical things, how do they pay their accommodation on campus, and how does that work?
That's in a termly instalment payment, but you can also pay.
You can choose how many installments. I think the average is 3. You can pay all at once, of course, and they can pay online or at the cash office on campus. We take most payments in the university online, both tuition and accommodation.
And how about any international students that might be listening and they wanted to go about opening an account, a bank account? What do they do?
They have to be registered first.
Yes.
They have to be registered students, and once they're registered, they can request a bank letter online on their eVision page. And once it's ready, they can come pick it up at the student center. Unfortunately, they can't open a student account without that letter.
What's the thing, where are the big savings that a student can make? Is it in the books? Is it in the food shopping? Because I know you do some lovely things on food shopping and comparisons, and how your money, how you can waste your money on branding big brands when you don't need to buy big brands.
And it's not just food either. I think that's something students aren't used to. Previously, when they didn't have to budget as much, they could buy the name brand clothing, phones, foods, and like you said, we do an event yearly to show students that with just their weekly shopping, how much money they could save by buying off brands instead of name brands. And also that you can't always tell the difference either between the two.
That's true, Okay, well, we're coming to the end of our segment just now, but I just wanted to, I can't see any specific questions anyone might have, just some final questions. Are there some special help for international students, because is there a portal or something where they can get special help? Because I know they've got to deposit that large amount of money into an account, and there's all sorts of things that are different for them.
With Money Doctors, we're available to all students, regardless of level, whether they're UK or international. Brunel International does offer special support services specifically for international students.
Yes, there's lots of resources as well. For example, on the UKISA website, that's the UK Council for International Student Affairs, .org.uk, there's resources on there because I think it's important for international students to find out sort of like about what the cost of living is in Britain before you arrive, you know, in the UK. And they've got some very useful resources there. And also Brightside have a calculator as well where international students can dip into and then tot up sort of exactly sort of, you know, what the expenditure is in the UK. And that's on studentcalculator.org.
Okay.
So they're very useful sort of areas there for students to dip in and have a look at before they actually arrive in the UK.
Come here. Okay, so last tips then for students who've not managed before or who have managed before and becoming students. What would you suggest they do before they arrive? You say they want to get that budget together.
Their budget. Know exactly what their weekly expenditure is going to be.
And have some money to enjoy Freshers Week.
Yes.
Because obviously your student loan won't hit your bank account until about at least a week and a half perhaps from Freshers Week.
Okay.
So make sure you've got enough money to actually sign up for your clubs, societies, enjoy the whole range of events which Brunel offer sort of during that week.
Okay.
And, you know, make sure that you can take part and then start to meet sort of like your friends and make those friendships, which will probably continue for the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah. It's not only about the learning, is it? It's about it's a social aspect as well.
I would also say there's always discounts online. Anything, whether the student wants to treat themselves to, say, a dinner out or things that they need. Everybody needs to have a haircut occasionally, and it adds up. It gets quite expensive. There's different websites that they can subscribe to, and they can get emails about what specials are happening.
Yes.
As long as they don't fall into the trap of buying one just because it's a deal.
That's
They
right.
can buy what they need, but there's no reason they should pay full price on anything.
And of course there is the student union card, isn't there?
The NUS.
The NUS card that gives that great discount.
Yeah.
Not everybody does it, but it's worth doing, isn't it? £15 for the card, is it 15 or £10?
I think the cost may have gone up to £15 per year.
Okay.
Yes.
In addition to that too, there's shops all over London that advertise if they have their student card on them, giving, for example, 10% off.
Exactly. And they even have in Uxbridge Town Centre, the Chimes, they have like a student evening where the students have a discount on a lot of the outlets, don't they?
Yes.
So, yeah, you've got to be wise with the money. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that sort of concludes the webinar for today. Thank you so much, Ingrid and Nazim, for coming along. And you can find them both in the student union area when you arrive here, when you've passed your exams.
And the
Student centre.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much for listening in today, and do stay tuned for the next webinar. Thank you very much. Bye now.